Hi, I hope that you are all doing well. Thank you so much for joining me here today, where we are going to talk about my top books for 2022. As you know, I read a lot, so I do the reading for the videos, but I also read books personally for myself. And so to make it fair, I am doing categories for the top books. I'll do a list that is the top books for the videos that I've done, and then a list that's top books for the books that I've read personally. So let's begin with the books that I read for the videos. So my first book is a contemporary mystery, so it's the contemporary category, but it's actually a mystery this year, and it is A Lesson in Vengeance. And I'm not going to go into what each of these books is about, but I did like the characters in the book, and I did like the way that the story progressed throughout. The second category is historical fiction, and that book is Anatomy, a Love Story. It takes place in Scotland in the past, and I like the way that the character doesn't let any obstacles stand in her way to achieving what she wants. She has to reach out to people that aren't normally in her social circle so that she can solve the problem. So the next category is mystery, and with that, I've got the Inheritance Games series. This is the first book, The Inheritance Games. This is the third book, The Final Gambit. I did find out that the fourth book, The Brothers Hawthorne, will be coming out in August, so I'm really excited about that. I love this series. I love the progression of the story through the books in the series. I'm excited to see the next book. My next category is novel in verse, and for that I have Ain't Burned All the Bright by Jason Reynolds, and the artwork is by Jason Griffin. So there's artwork, there's a poem, it's all put together into a story about how the events of the summer of 2020 causes one boy to feel isolated and what he does about it. My next category is manga or graphic novels. Last year I chose a graphic novel for this category. This year it is manga. It's the manga classic of Hamlet. I love the way the story is presented as a manga classic. You get to see different interpretations through the artwork. The story combined with the artwork keeps your attention. It's really amazing. My next one is a folktale or fairy tale retelling. This time it is a fairy tale retelling. It is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen, which is a retelling of the folktale The Goose Girl, which I was not familiar with. I really love this story. The next is the category of books that have a supernatural element, and with that I went with Gallant. I like the way the story is laid out. There are illustrations in the center, which when you read it you'll understand what they are, but it's just an incredible story. The next category is surprising series. For this category I went with a duology, and the books are The Initial Insult and The Last Laugh. I love that the story is inspired by an Edgar Allan Poe story, and I love that there are consequences for the behavior of the people, like they do something, but then they aren't all friends at the end. So the next category is new series, and the series I have are the Jane Austen Mysteries by Tirzah Price, starting with Pride and Premeditation. What I like about this series is that the author is inspired by Jane Austen, carries through some of her ideas about the role of women in society and how they're not allowed to fully actualize, and it's set in the past, but it has a more contemporary feel. And last is a category I really like. They're books I call like a breath of fresh air, or they're just fun. And for this category, I have A Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks. I loved this book. I did not read the other books in the series, but I was able to join in on this, the third book, and know kind of what's going on and just enjoy the story. So those are my top 10 books for those that I read for videos. Next, we're going to go on to my top 10 personal reads. Some of these you may have seen in a video, but they are also books that I personally wanted to read. And we're going to start with the contemporary category. And again, this one is a dark academia, so it is set in the present, but it has other genres mixed in with it, and it is the Atlas 6. And it's set in a school where 6 students go to learn magic. My next category is fantasy, and what I have is Babel. Some areas it's pronounced as Babel. And it is set in a school, so it is kind of dark academia again, but it's just an amazing book. Next I have mystery, and with this I went with the classic, 5 Little Pigs by Agatha Christie. My next category is YA series, and we've got My Imaginary Mary, which is the second book in the Mary's series. The first one was My Contrary Mary. I like the way the series is going. It's continuing in a great direction. This is one where you don't really have to have read the other book to read this one. It helps if you do, but you don't have to. So my next title is from the classics category, and this is actually a classic that was written in the 20th century, so it's not a really old classic. It's a book I had read before, but I had not read for a while. It's A Prayer for Owen, Meanie by John Irving. He talks about a lot of themes in there and brings them all together. It's just done in an excellent way. So my next book is science fiction, and it's not science fiction in that it takes place in space. It's science fiction in that it involves time travel. You might consider it more of a magical realism book. I can accept that as well. And it is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It's just an amazing book. People get to go back in time and right wrongs, knowing that it's not going to change anything in their present. Next is favorite author, and that's a category where the book that I read spurs me on to want to read all the books written by the author. This is actually an author that I read before, but I really enjoyed this book. It's a homage to Stephen King by Tiffany Jackson. It's The Weight of Blood. So the next category is series, and I've got The Magicians by Grossman. I just started reading this book this year, and I've already read the second book. I hope to finish the third one next year. Our next category is adaptation, so where somebody took a story, presented it in a new format, and for that I have the stories of Edgar Allan Poe, the Manga Classics edition. You all know that I love Poe. This book was just really an amazing adaptation of his stories, and it even included a story that I haven't read in a long time, The Fall of the House of Usher, and I really like the way that that was presented as well. So the final category is unexpected books. So this is a book that just takes me in a different direction than I thought it would. I don't have an actual copy of it here, so I just printed a copy of the book cover, so it's not really even a good copy, but I wanted you to have an idea of what it looked like. And it's a novella. It's a very short book. I think it's under 100 pages, and it is And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer by Frederick Backman. And it's a story of a grandfather who is starting to develop dementia, and he's helping his family deal with it. And it's just a really heart-touching story. If you do not want to cry, do not read that book. And there we are. I hope that you enjoyed my look at my top 10 books for the videos and my top 10 books for my personal reads. And I hope that you'll take a moment to consider what you enjoyed most of the books that you read. I will be back soon, and I hope I will see you then. Until then, I hope that you enjoy all that you do and all that you read. And thank you.